Welcome back to episode 2. I'm Vinny Crispino, founder of Pain Academy, and here to guide you out of chronic pain. Last episode, I shared my full story with my accident, my wipeout, about a wave that smashed my spine, broke my T12 vertebrae, and sent me spiraling into chronic pain for years. I shared the big picture story of how I went from being hardly able to stand without agonizing pain to running one of America's toughest 50-mile ultramarathons. Today, let's zero in on why your body keeps hurting. We're going to do a deep dive into the physical trap on this episode. Muscle imbalances, limitation with joints, when movement patterns go rogue. If you're stuck, back screaming, knees aching, or insert any other body part, or if movement just feels off, this episode is for you. I'm breaking down the body's dysfunction cycle, and I'll give you a framework with some tools to start disrupting this vicious cycle immediately. In episode 1, I shared with you that my one injury turned into dozens of misfires. Many of you shared with me how relatable that statement was. Let me make this even more clear and real for you so we're all on the same page. Here is exactly what I meant. As you know, I broke my back in a single event. The immediate and 5+ year aftermath was this. Putting pressure on my left leg was painful. The combination of pain and nerve damage made me hesitant to bear weight on the left side, as it triggered discomfort. Pain mixed with a lack of confidence and weakness meant my left leg couldn't take the weight of my movement, nor did I want it to. Put simply, my left leg was dysfunctional. Now, you're going to hear me use that word a lot, so let me quickly define it. Dysfunction. At its root, dys means without, and function meaning working in a proper way. So that's dysfunction, when something no longer works in a proper way. For me, it started with a back injury. Pain, weakness, and nerve damage from that wipeout made every step feel like a battle. So my body did what all of our bodies are highly skilled at doing. It compensated. You don't just stop moving the second you're injured. You find a way to keep going. We all find a way to keep going. Though we all compensate in different ways to different problems, compensation is universally the same. It's how we adapt our movement to reroute strength, reduce pressure and pain on injured areas. And by all means, do whatever we have to keep chugging along despite the curveballs that life throws at us. What that looked like for me, I leaned hard on my right leg any chance I got. Sitting, standing, walking, bending, squatting, it didn't matter. My right leg took over, and I needed it to. So my main dysfunction was my back injury and my left leg not working in a proper way, creating jarring back pain when I would put weight on my left leg. Your dysfunction might feel directly tied to pain. When you do a movement and it hurts, that's dysfunction. Things no longer working in a proper way. Maybe your dysfunction isn't related to pain. Maybe it's the nervous system. When you ask a muscle to work, like your glutes, and they simply don't. Maybe your dysfunction feels more joint related. You ask your hip to rotate or shoulder to move overhead, but it can't. It's anatomically stuck. It feels like you just hit a wall. Maybe you can't raise your arm overhead or your ankle doesn't bend. That's dysfunction, when something no longer works in a proper way. Maybe it's one or all of those things. We'll dive more into this throughout the episode, but back to the big picture. All dysfunction leads to compensation in some way, shape, or form. My dysfunction with my back and left leg led to my compensation of relying more on my right side. Sitting, my weight was more on my right hip. Standing, my weight shifted to my right leg as my left leg just basically became a kickstand, just barely preventing me from falling over. Walking, I would have this gallop where my right leg spent more time on the ground. Because the left was so painful, I wanted to keep weight off of it as quickly and as much as possible. Bending my hips, weight shifted into my right side to do most of the work. It didn't matter the movement, the position, or the day. My right leg did the majority of movement and lifting. As my right leg bore everything, my left leg froze up more and more with each passing year. Imbalance impacts both sides. It's only a question of how. So take my legs. The weaker my left leg became, the harder my right had to work and compensate. And the stronger my right grew, the more my left withered, stiffening in its neglect. It is for this reason that you have to treat both sides equally, which is completely counterintuitive when you have an imbalance, because most people pull the tighter side harder. They give the weaker side more reps, etc. Think about it. Continuing to give the nervous system an imbalanced stimulus further increases imbalance, just like two wrongs don't make a right. But more on that later. Movement, regardless of what it was, felt like grinding gears. I went from a young 20-year-old, an 8-time All-American swimmer, to swapping laces for Velcro shoes because bending to tie them felt like a knife in my spine in the middle of a disorganized mess. My story from here is probably a lot like yours in that I threw everything at my pain that I could. Physical therapy, chiro, acupuncture, acupressure, massage. Sometimes sessions felt like I was making progress, and I noticed a 20% drop in symptoms, thinking I was on the right track. And probably just like you, those results were short-lived. Later that day or the next, pain was the same or worse. Why? Because the pain changed the way I moved. And that was never addressed. My adapted movements, aka the compensation, though a short-term solution to keep me moving, only deepened the imbalance, sowing greater dysfunction. The more dysfunction, the more pain. The more pain, the more tension, imbalance, hesitation, restriction in every move. The more restrictions, the worse my dysfunction became. This cycle is what raged for years. And as a dad, it shattered me. Countless times I had to tell my son I'd just have to watch him at the playground, longing to chase him in a game of tag, longing to be that fun dad that he deserved. Too often, I had to say no to building Legos together, robbing us both of the bond that we yearned for. I'd try pushing him around, I tried pushing my son in his stroller around the park, even leaning on it. And within a few steps, right hip started to scream, left leg felt like it was dragging. I'd stop, park it, do the same weird twisty movement to try and crack my back, in some weird way hoping that I just pop my back just right and release all of my pain. Spoiler alert, never worked once. My body was doing its best and fighting itself. On top of that, I was fighting my experience the entire time, and I was losing until I learned about the cycle and how to disrupt it. First up, let's dive into the cycle because you can't change a problem that you don't understand. Let's start with the big question. Why isn't your body healing? For me, why the hell did I feel worse 5 years after my injury? What I learned changed everything, and I've used it to free over 12,000 plus people from their chronic pain at Pain Academy. I, like so many of you, was trapped in this vicious cycle better known as the dysfunction and compensation cycle. Dysfunction fueling compensation, compensation spawning further dysfunction, and pain swirling around all of that. Let's first dive into dysfunction, what it really means and why it messes with how we move, feel, and live. Now, I touched on this earlier, but we're going to go deep. Dysfunction isn't just one thing. It's a web of issues that often overlap, feeding off each other to make movement harder and life less comfortable. Broadly, it falls into three main categories: problems with muscle and tissue balance, problems with joint mechanics, and problems with how muscles and nerves work together. Let's break down all three of them. First up, muscle and tissue imbalance. This is where tension in your muscles or connective tissues is out of whack. Some are too tight, others are too loose. We aren't even talking about movement yet, just your body as it exists at rest. Which muscles are overdeveloped, overactive, tense? Which ones are stiff, weak, tight, underactive? Think of it like a tug of war where the muscles around the joints are already at a disadvantage before movement even starts. This could feel like your right side is way stronger, more connected than your left. This could feel like one side being tighter or more stiff. Asymmetrical pain is usually a solid sign that there's significant imbalance between the right and left. Now, for some of you, the right and left sides could be decently balanced, but the main imbalance exists between the front and back muscle groups. You know exactly what I mean. If you feel decently balanced right to left, yet you can't squat fluidly or bend forward and touch the ground with ease with straight legs. I was all out of whack. I had left to right imbalances and front to back imbalances all compounding onto each other. My left side felt stiff as a board, and I noticed all of these weird differences, like my left hip could not externally rotate well, but my left hip could internally rotate well, extremely well, might I add. And the opposite was true for my right hip. I could externally rotate my right hip extremely well, but literally couldn't rotate my hip at all internally. Like I couldn't even get my right hip into neutral. That's how stuck it was. All of these irregularities were all over the place and noticeable everywhere from my ankles all the way to my neck. Okay, moving on. The second bucket of dysfunction. Joint mechanics gone wrong. This is about how your joints move, or for many people, don't move. It's what Czech neurologist Vladimir Janda called relative stiffness. Motion gets dumped into the loosest joints because the stiff ones won't budge. Just looking at joint motion here, they don't glide smoothly, and that throws off your whole system. To make that more real for you, my left hip could not externally rotate. This joint limitation altered the surrounding joints. Because life doesn't just stop if a left hip can't externally rotate, my body ingeniously figured out that if the left side of my pelvis tilts back, also known as a posterior tilt, and my entire pelvis rotates counterclockwise, so left to right, and my right pelvis tilts forward and hikes up higher than my left, and my right hip externally rotates, I could actually somewhat fake left hip rotation and move okay-ish. Picture a rusty hinge on a door. The frame warps from the extra strain. And that's just what my hips and pelvis did. And don't even get me started on my spine and shoulders. I will briefly mention this was the start of my scoliosis, shoulder and neck issues. Because what chance does a spine and upper body have at being functional, balanced and level when it sits on top of a mess like that? It's joint irregularities all over the place. One injury compromised my entire system. Okay, let's move on to the third bucket. This is the big one, but no more important than the previous two that I mentioned. Bucket number 3, muscle and nerve miscommunication. This is where the nervous system fumbles the ball. Your brain and nerves tell your muscles how to move. Period. But if the signals are scrambled, things go haywire. For me, it was numbness in my left leg or muscles cramping because the nerves weren't firing right. This third category really kicks into drive when there's pain. It includes a wide range of issues like pinched nerves, sciatica's fiery sting, or deeper issues like poor sensoromotor integration when your brain struggles to sense where your body's at in space. It's also about neuromuscular efficiency, where muscles don't activate properly, or extreme tissue fatigue, where overworked tissues break down. Have you ever felt anxious or scared, even lying safe in bed? Your heart starts to race, your breath shortens, muscles tense, ready to fight, flee, or freeze? That is your nervous system hijacking your body. And it can do the same to your movement, making it stiff, painful, or just feel off. These 3 buckets, imbalanced tissues, faulty joint mechanics, and nerve muscle misfires, do not just exist in isolation. They team up, amplifying each other. Any one of them can make moving feel like wading through mud, turning simple tasks into challenges, and often bringing pain or discomfort along for the ride. In short, dysfunction is when your body's not playing as a team and you feel every bit of that disconnect. So, how does your body respond? You don't just stop moving because dysfunction exists. Imagine spraining an ankle and not being able to hobble to safety. Your body is a really helpful trick to keep you moving when dysfunction's present. It compensates. Your body is incredibly smart. When one part isn't pulling its weight, other parts step up automatically without thought to keep you moving. This brilliant mechanism is called compensation. Compensation is your body's quick fix. It helps you dodge or reduce pain, stay safe, and keep you moving in the moment. But what starts as a clever workaround can backfire. Over time, these short-term solutions turn maladaptive, spawning new problems and secondary issues that often deepen the original dysfunction, setting off a cascade of chaos in your body. Here's how compensation plays out in real life. Let me make this real for you. Turning a helpful fix short-term into a long-term vicious cycle. Example number 1, shifting weight to one side. The original dysfunction is you injure your right knee, and it hurts to bear weight on the right knee. Compensation is you lean on your left leg to spare the right knee. It works short-term, but the result long-term is overloading the left side, puts extra strain on your left ankle, knee, hip, and lower back. Not really a problem short-term, but chronic right knee pain puts that left side to work hard for a long time. Left side either breaks down with repetitive use injuries or it adapts and gets stronger. If it gets stronger, it now takes over long-term whenever it can, squatting, stairs, sitting, standing, even being intimate. All of this over time further weakens the right knee, and now the rest of the body is thrown out of whack due to long-term compensation from the original right knee injury. Focusing only on the knee won't break the cycle. It's now a full body problem. Compensation example number 2, overusing lower back muscles. The original dysfunction is a back injury causes your lower back muscles to tighten, guarding the area to prevent movement that could potentially cause more damage. That's great. You want that to happen. The immediate compensation is those tight lower back muscles limit core movement. So your core weakens over time. Having back pain doesn't necessarily make you want to move more, right? You move less. And in your lesser movement, the hips tighten up and weaken as well as your core muscles. Short-term helpful. Long-term, the result is with a weaker core, your lower back further tightens up to provide as much stability as possible, ramping up more lower back tension. Tight hips pile on more strain to the lower back, and now the cycle snowballs. Back pain worsens, core gets weaker, back hurts more, core gets weaker, hips tighten further. You get the picture. The original dysfunction and compensation spreads like wildfire. Now, the last example of this, and probably the most relatable, is avoiding movements altogether. So let's say the original dysfunction is a joint, say your shoulder, it grows rigid from injury or just neglect. Reaching overhead is this like grimace-inducing ordeal. Okay, that's the dysfunction. The compensation, short term, is you do what any reasonable person would do. You avoid that movement. In this case, you avoid reaching overhead entirely. You abandon the motion. Your arms stay low. You ask others for help when needed. No more putting your luggage overhead on planes. You stop grabbing things off of that top shelf, etc. Short term, it's a great compensation. But long term, the result is the less you use it, the faster you lose it. This avoidance compensation obliterates shoulder strength and further locks in stiffness, turning this kind of minor issue and straightforward compensation into a full-blown liability. The same truth applies to any dodged motion. Squats, twisting, lifting, bending, sidestepping movements that hurt. Though maybe a short-term good idea or helpful, long-term, this forces your body to adapt to the lack of motion and compensations by getting weaker and stiffer. Your body, desperate to cope, twists itself into unnatural positions, each one a nail in the coffin of your mobility. And this spiral of weakness breeds deeper dysfunction, chaining you to this cycle of decline. This is not a minor setback. It's a relentless downward spiral, chaining you to ever-deepening dysfunction. And each of these starts out as your body's attempt to protect itself. But left unchecked, these compensations fuel this downward spiral of pain and limitation. As I said a moment ago, at first, compensation helps you avoid pain as best as possible and tries to keep you active. But over time, it creates a whole host of new problems. And just like that, you're trapped in a vicious cycle. One problem spawns another. And suddenly, you're stuck. Sound familiar? No need to tell you how rough that feels. If you've even made it this far in this video, you know this world all too well. But here's the game changer. You, just like I did, can break this loop. The first step is seeing this cycle for what it is. Everything I just shared. Armed with that clarity, you're now ready to tackle dysfunction and compensation head on. So, how do you stop the spiral and take back control? The key is to address both the original problem area and the compensatory patterns your body has developed. Let's be real. By the time you're hearing this, you might feel dysfunction everywhere. Weakness, imbalance, and stiff joints everywhere. Maybe your ankle, knee, hip, pelvis, back, and shoulders are all screaming, we need help and we need attention, like mine were, with no idea where it kicked off outside of an accident to point towards. That's totally normal. And honestly, after working with people with severe movement impairments for over a decade, it doesn't even matter where it started. Because what's true at this point in time for you is two problems are existing simultaneously: dysfunction and compensation. The key is to target both at the same time. This isn't a game of whack-a-mole, fixing one spot, then chasing the next. It's a dual attack. Zeroing in on just a painful spot doesn't work, but you already know that. Pushing your whole body harder through intense workouts often backfires, and I assume you already know that. But why? Because it strengthens your compensations, meaning as you get stronger, your imbalances do as well. And remember that cycle? That typically means your dysfunction gets stronger as well until you crash and train yourself into your next injury. Forced to yo-yo and rest and get injured and let those overtrained patterns cool off before starting the yo-yo cycle again of then having to motivate yourself and going back to the gym, and then it happens again. Break the loop by tackling dysfunction and compensation together. Work smarter, not harder. There are no shortcuts here. If there were, you or I would have found them among the endless pain-fixing quick fix hacks out there. No magic pills. No one exercises to heal everything. Just real, focused, smart, proven work. And I'm here to guide you through it with the movement program. Check the link in the show notes. Select the one problem area that you're struggling with or that you want to see the change in the fastest. Yeah, I know there might be many, but just pick one. I'll send you a routine designed to begin restoring function to that key dysfunctional spot while simultaneously unwinding your body's entire compensatory habits at the same time. This free targeted routine isn't a miracle overnight. It is the best first step to stopping the spiral and begin disrupting this vicious cycle. If you're wanting more than just a single free routine and you're craving a comprehensive program to go deeper and break this cycle for good, head to painacademy.net for a free trial of the movement program. Now, let's get honest. I know you're craving instant answers. I've been there too. Desperate, rushing, and begging for the magic exercise to fix it all. But here's the truth, and I say this with love. That urgency has, and will continue to sabotage you. It'll keep you chasing quick fixes that crash and burn. Let's kill that mindset now and do something meaningful today moving forward. Take the first step in the program. Try a free routine for me or dive in and start your free trial of the movement program. This is not about perfection today. It's about direction. By doing that, you're already moving forward, and I'll be with you one day at a time, every step of the way. Let's take that first step and break the cycle together. Now, before I wrap up, if this episode hits home, subscribe to my channel, drop a like. It helps more people find this who could benefit and find the same value as you have. Or share your story or ask me a question in the comments below. I'm reading every one. As a heads up, in our next episode, we're diving deep into the nervous system, the hidden driver behind your body's every move. Today, we tackled the physical side. In the next episode, I'll unpack the undercurrent that's calling the shots, your nervous system. You won't want to miss it. I'm glad you're here. Stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.